Hello, my name is Brian Haddis. In this lesson, we will take a look at the legal requirements of a professional educator and the possibility of change in employment of an educator that has or receives a criminal record at any given time. As I began to reflect on my legal presentation for Dr. Lee, I couldn't help but think of all the media stories that are portrayed on a daily basis on educators in our schools today. This automatically made me wonder, well, actually, really think about the question. Are educators held to a different standard than anyone else? To most, this may seem easy to answer, but I think it goes deeper than being held to a different standard. Let me start off by addressing the law that passed in 2007 that required that all employees complete a criminal background check before being hired. It even requires that certified and non-certified employees have fingerprinting completed as well. This is the time that if there are any arrests, charges, or deferred adjudications present, they will be found by the district. There are some very special rules for certain departments of the school districts. Let's take a look at one that I believe is the most important. The bus drivers that take the students to and from school. Some districts contract bus drivers, and it is mandatory that each bus driver have a criminal background check done before reporting to that particular district for work. If there is a conviction of a felony or misdemeanor involving moral turpitude, the driver can only drive with the district's permission. For those of you wondering, moral turpitude is anything that a district or state feels compromises the character and reputation of the school based on an employee's behavior. What I found interesting is that the schools are not required to fire or refuse to hire a person based on their criminal history. The only things that districts are allowed to refuse employment is if the employee has any of the following on their criminal record: a Title V felony, which involves violence, offense with a minor victim enrolled in a public school, and an employee is required to register as a sex offender. But if an employee lies on a job application, the state does authorize a district to terminate employment. As we all know, life happens and we are all human. I know it is crazy to think that teachers are human just like everyone else. So that brings me to the next subject of teachers that are hired with a clean record but obtain a criminal record later in employment. Section 21.006 requires superintendents and other chief executives to notify SBC when they have reasonable cause to believe that a certificate holder or applicant has a criminal record. The TEC 22.087 goes even further than that by requiring superintendents and chief executives to report to the SBC if a certificate holder has reported criminal history. These all must be done within 7 days. That's under 19 TAC 249.14. Criminal history includes convictions, indictments, deferred adjudication, and even an arrest. Like almost any profession, each person never wants to hear the word termination. In teaching, it is pretty hard to get fired, but there are some non-negotiables and always end in an automatic termination. These include when a teacher is involved in child neglect or abuse, when there is an inappropriate teacher-student relationship, or when a teacher has an assault on a student. After reading this topic and doing this presentation, I thought I would share with you some of the common issues we are seeing that teachers are involved in. As I mentioned before, we are seeing a lot more media coverage than before. Unfortunately, it is almost always with the student. Not always, which leads to more discussion of why teachers get punished or humiliated for things that may happen on their own time. First, Terry Abbott, a former chief of staff for the U.S. Department of Education, heads up Drive West Communication, a Houston-based research firm that tracks reports of this kind of misconduct. He holds social media, i.e. Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and text messaging, responsible for the exploitation of classroom sexual predators that has created an open gateway for inappropriate behavior, including developing inappropriate relationship with students out of sight of parents and principals. We are seeing the social media as not only a gateway for teachers to commit crimes, but we're seeing the effects of social media on homes, relationships, and the emotional well-being of many. Second, a Hidalgo County grand jury indicted Elda Flores, a 50-year-old second-grade teacher at Guerra Elementary School in Edinburgh, Texas, on September 9th on a third-degree felony charge to injury to a child. Ms. Flores allegedly committed the assault on September 23, 2014, by pushing said child to the ground and by grabbing or pulling or holding said child's arm, hands, and body down on the floor, and by pushing, forcing, and holding the head and face of said child against the surface of the floor. We are seeing more and more assaults being reported. Whether it happen or not, this can be scary, and we have to wonder what is pushing our teachers to their breaking point, or are we not screening our teachers and holding them to a certain level? Third, teachers arrested for DWI. Crimes involving moral turpitude can be subject to review by the SBEC, even if it is on their own time. Drinking and driving is never good, as we all know, but many ask why this isn't anyone's business at the place of employment, unless you come to work intoxicated or you operate a vehicle that could endanger a child's life. This has really opened my eyes to the fact that, as a teacher, that our day is not over when the bell rings. We must always act and speak in a professional manner that only brings positive, encouraging light to our profession of education. It seems to me in my opinion that teachers cannot even have a personal life that a district will not dive into. Obviously, anything that deals with a child is unacceptable and should be punished, but I really do believe we could look at other topics in a different manner, especially when things happen on our own personal time. Thank you for your time.